Hello and welcome to another edition of Questions for Lawyers. I'm your host, board certified civil trial lawyer, Jeff Adelman. The purpose of this podcast is to ask questions as if I were the client talking with the attorney for the first time, trying to get consumers to ask the questions that they really need to know when they are consulting with an attorney. Today, we're very privileged to have Celena Nash as our guest, who specializes in real estate law. And Celena, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me. I appreciate it.
Celena, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am a practicing attorney, been doing this for the last 15 years. I practice exclusive real estate. I also have my office in Coral Springs, Florida. I'm a resident of Parkland and a mom, a mom of two little girls. And I am the owner of the law office of Celena Nash, PA, where we have been operating in Coral Springs for the last 9 years, I believe, 9 years.
Wow. And in that 9 years, Celena, there's been just a few changes here and there. Can you talk about that for us?
The changes in real estate, there have been
Well,
quite a
yeah,
bit.
just changes in the market in general in South Florida.
Well, South Florida is always going to be the mecca of real estate. We have a variety. I mean, our landscape here in Florida is just awesome. It's a place that people come to start their lives, people who come to end their retirement, I mean, end their careers for retirement. So this is just always a moving thing. And real estate is one of those things here in South Florida that's always going to be revolving, good and bad. In the last few years, especially since COVID, things definitely changed for us. Some good, some bad, but our market is competitive and it's always going to be competitive. So as the time goes on and things are continuing to change from the new laws to the old laws to the federal regulations, it is a moving area of law.
Let me ask you this, because obviously with the pandemic in 2020, the thing that I think surprised a lot of people was how the real estate market, homes just increased in value exponentially in South Florida. We're here now in March 2024. What's the state of the market in your opinion now?
The market is still booming. So when it happened in 2020, everyone went in a panic, right? We would agree that everyone was so uncertain of what was going to happen, but the prices of the homes increased. You had people selling, you had people unable to make their payments. So their thing was to sell. You had people knocking on doors, hoping for opportunities to purchase homes. Home prices went up. Interest rate was extremely low. So things were still flowing for real estate. We did closings during the pandemic, and things were still going, still flowing. Things had changed a little bit, especially with no in-person. A lot of things took place remote. A lot of lenders who had restrictions against signing remotely allowed it during that time. So we were able to do a lot of refinancing, again, because the interest rate went down so much. That helped out during that period. Fast forward, the interest rate is extremely high. Nevertheless, things are still moving, meaning that prices are still extremely high. Inventory is really low. So if you're not coming in with cash at this point, you're being outbidded really fast on the price of the homes. And you would think, Jeff, that homes going for $1, $2, $3 million would need financing. But what I've seen over the few years is that cash buyers have been coming up paying $1, $2, $3, $4 million cash for homes. So
Wow.
it's easy for a seller to agree to sell to someone who's coming in with cash when you don't have as many restrictions, you don't have the potential for delays dealing with lenders. So cash has been running our market in the last few years.
Well, there's a few things I want to pull out of that answer, because that really was it's a lot of information there that, people probably don't know. The first thing I want to ask you about is the technology that was adopted in the real estate industry because of COVID. How much of that is still here today?
It's here, Jeff. It's going to stay. And it's mind-boggling that we were able to operate without so much technology before COVID. COVID forced all of us to embrace technology. Even my office, we use remote online notaries. And sometimes we have remote notaries mobile notaries that will go to your site. Before, those things weren't as popular. But now those are things that we use with technology where that person can go on site and even set up a video, and I can explain to them the entire process, the documents, why we have a representative there. So mobile notary came into place, and forcing us to actually use our technology. Another thing was the remote notary. Again, that's one of the things that a lot of lenders did not allow previously, and some have restrictions on it now. But for the most part, that technology is still here and it's extremely helpful when you're dealing with so many different people. And again, when I said that a lot of people are purchasing here with cash, they're not actually moving here per se to use this as their primary. So we have foreigners all over the world that are still able to do closings remotely as a result of technology.
Well, I just remember in the few transactions I've had personally, the big stack of papers and having to go to the office and sign off and have a wet signature. And that's not the case anymore from what you're
Not at
saying.
all. It's funny you say that. I realized this week that I haven't purchased paper in so long because, excuse me, everything is electronic. So even we get signatures, we get documents, we filing everything, it's electronic. Even when it comes to recording documents, we use electronic. Technology is what we use to record our document. It allows us to record documents so much faster and so much more efficient that it helps and protect the lender's lien rights. It helps protect the buyer and the seller because documents are able to be recorded instantly. So I can finish my closing in 1 hour, and the next hour I have all my documents recorded. And that's a result of technology. Thank goodness.
Yeah, it's, look, it was a terrible time, but that definitely streamlined the industry, not just in real estate, not just in law, but in so many different industries, even outside of law. So it was a well-needed change, to say the least.
You have to embrace technology.
Yeah, it's going to come whether you like it or not.
Yes.
So, well, here's something that talking to our audience members, some people they're a little afraid to hire a lawyer. And I kind of wanted to talk with you about when the best time to consult with a lawyer would be when you're contemplating buying real estate, whether it be commercial or residential.
Excellent question. My opinion, and I'm not being biased when I say it, as soon as you determine that you want to purchase a property, engage an attorney. And I'll tell you why. The contract that you enter into with anyone is the most important thing that you're going to do. Yes, it is a standard form contract. However, things happen, things are not written correctly, things are not attached, things are not checked. Minor issues can lead to detrimental results. And I say that with so much emphasis, Jeff, that we have files where we receive them after the contract has been signed. The buyer is not even aware of most of the provisions or understand the provisions that they have agreed to. Sometimes realtors, while they have great intentions, they give them the contract and they trust their realtor, which is great, but they sign it and they have no understanding of exactly what they just signed. As opposed to engage an attorney is able to walk them through the entire process from front to back, the entire contract, make sure that the buyer's objective is actually being met. If you are purchasing and you have intent, you trying to, excuse me, eliminate your costs, that's when you have the opportunity to engage an attorney for that purpose. And the attorney can actually help you to save money. there is certain provisions. If you check on a contract, you are responsible for paying more money. So someone that's knowledgeable and not looking out for just one interest, which means that I'm not looking out just for the commission or the actual sale, but looking out for your best interest from a legal perspective. So that's why I think it's very important. I can give you examples where when I'm engaged, after a contract been signed, they forgot to attach an addendum, or they forgot to provide the buyer with the condominium documents, yet the buyer has signed that they have received all those documents. And that's very important, Jeff, because not receiving condo or association documents prior to a sale, that allows you to cancel the contract. But if you are signing a document, the contract saying, oh, I received everything, you lost an opportunity in case you do need to get out, because you get the declaration or the condo docs days before the closing. You realize I can't rent my property. You didn't know this, but you signed off in the beginning that you received those documents that could have told you that. So I think it's important to engage the attorney in the beginning, my opinion.
Well, again, I can't disagree because, even though I'm not in your field, you do see things, and litigation can be a lot more expensive than retaining an
Oh,
attorney in the
absolutely.
beginning.
Absolutely. By the
You know,
time you come to me and we're about to litigate, you're already in a couple hundred or $1,000, because if I have to litigate something, it's not easy to resolve. When you as a buyer or even as a seller made a mistake in the beginning, something that could have been fixed or something that could have been caught in the beginning, you're absolutely right. Sure, it will be more expensive once you have to litigate that issue as a result of something that could have easily been prevented in the beginning.
I mean, the expression, the cliches, penny wise, dollar foolish, it certainly applies with real estate purchases.
And
I think that's what
yes,
you're saying.
yes, and it is a big misconception. I have a realtor, so I don't need an attorney. Unfortunately, a realtor does not practice law. A realtor does not know how to interpret a contract the way that a real estate lawyer should be able to interpret a contract. And again, from my perspective, I do litigation. So I understand what we're trying to prevent. I'm trying to keep you out of the courtroom. So if I'm allowed to help you in the beginning, more than likely we're not going to have to go to court, because I can catch the things and I can put you in a position from the beginning to prevent those things in the future.
And at the end of the day, the cost of retaining a real estate attorney is not much in the big scheme of things. Can you explain why?
It's not. Okay, so if you are buying, most real estate attorneys, for me, we do title work here. We also do closings. So as a part of the closing, one of the things that primarily happens during the closings is title policy. So most attorneys, when they are doing closing, real estate closing, that's our primary goal, is the title policy. So as a result, you're using an attorney, a law firm, as opposed to a title company that's not backed by an attorney. Then you are getting the benefit of having someone that's licensed as an attorney with knowledge to actually handle your transaction. So that fee is primarily rolled into the policy, or they pay a minimum fee, Jeff. I think our fee right now ranges from $6.95, $8.95, $9.95, just for representation or preparation of seller documents, which is very inexpensive. Again, you get the ability to have an attorney to hold your hand and walk you through the process for a couple $100s.
Couple $100 when you're maybe spending $500,000 or $100,000 doesn't sound like much.
Not at all, but when it comes to commercial real estate, which is one of our cornerstones of the firm, those prices tend to be more, but those things are a lot more riskier for the lender, for the buyer and seller. So the fees for attorney fees for those transactions tend to be a little bit more, but at the same time, as you stated, is necessary, especially in those type transactions, to have someone that's knowledgeable about the contract and knowledge about the transaction.
Of course. What about when somebody wants to refinance a home? Do they need an attorney for a refi?
Okay, so anytime you're doing a real estate closing, and I'm probably one of the few attorneys that would say this, but do you need an attorney? Anytime that you have a contract, I say you need an attorney. Unless you're drafting the contract, right? And even if you're drafting a contract, if you're not licensed, you still need a real estate attorney to read the contract with you. It's the same thing I would tell you if I was not, I was trying to settle a personal injury case. I wouldn't do it myself. I'll come to you. Because again, I don't know all the things. I don't know what to say. I don't really understand the lingo that an attorney from that perspective would need to put in the agreement, as opposed to, again, when you're doing a refinance, you're still dealing with contracts. You're still dealing with a mortgage. You're still dealing with new agreements. So yes, you still need an attorney because you would be legally bound by anything that you actually sign as a part of that transaction.
Well, I know that in the past, when I've done refis, I've used an attorney, even though I'm an attorney, because I don't know
Yeah,
what you know.
exactly. Which is, again, if I'm not a surgeon, I'm not going to be doing surgery. So
Exactly. Well, experts still matter these days,
yes.
contrary to what some of the things we see in the media. Well, let me ask you this. Is there a particular time of the year that it's better to buy or sell real estate?
It's always a great time to buy and sell real estate. But we
I
do
know,
see,
that was that was an easy one. But let me ask you, do you see anything where you see more um potential for a buyer or seller at certain times, or is there more inventory like when school ends, things like that?
exactly. As soon as school ends, that's when most people start looking because they are trying to prepare over the summer. They can do their move while the kids are out of school, and they can also get the kids ready to go to a new school to be enrolled. So during that time, summertime is always a great time. You know, South Florida is always hot, but summertime is also an opportunity to purchase and to sell your real estate with ease. But right now, it's really just competitive. Like everything is extremely competitive. I anticipate the interest rate going down a little bit more. And I think once the interest rate go down, we're going to have a lot of people refinancing as a result of them entering into mortgages during the higher rate. Um, kid you not, some closing we did last year, 2023, interest rate was up to like 12%. And obviously you have people who are getting into variables at this point, variable loans, with the intent, I will refinance in the future. So I anticipate them refinancing as soon as the rates go down to 6% or 5%. I don't think we're going to have the 2% or 3% anytime soon. However, I do think that once the interest rate decrease a little, I don't think the value or the prices of the home are going to decrease, but I think people are going to be more inclined to sell and to buy more real estate.
I want to touch on something that you talked about earlier about commercial real estate, because I know that's a part of your practice as well. Um, the interest rates, I believe, are different in commercial. And what are the other differences in a commercial transaction as opposed to a residential real estate transaction?
So the federal regulations are different too when it comes to real estate, residential and commercial. There are more protection for consumers when they are purchasing a home, a residential home, as opposed to a commercial setting. Commercial, they're not deemed as necessary vulnerable. Those tend to be more sophisticated individual who engage in commercial property. So the laws are a lot more lax when it comes to lending and it comes to their regulations. So that's one of the primary things. And I also find that a lot of commercial real estate tend to be negotiated more so with the brokers directly as opposed to realtors doing the negotiations for the buyer or seller. So the commercial properties, as you can imagine, has so many other different components to it. It could be the business purchase that comes along with it. It can be the zoning. Sometimes even when you're buying or selling it, the zoning come into issue, whether or not you're going to be able to conduct your business. Environmental issues come into play, major environmental issue depending on what you are purchasing. So while the regulations, the inspection periods and everything else is typically traditional in the residential setting, things are not necessarily traditional when you come to commercial. So the risks are a lot more for the buyer, seller, as well as the lender. As a result, they tend to be a lot more complex and requires a lot more attention.
Thank you. One thing I didn't ask you about, and I'd be remiss if I didn't, is if anybody's listening or watching this and they are a prospective first-time home buyer, what type of programs are there available for them through financing or through the government or anything like that?
So I would tell them, I'm glad you asked me that. So one of the things I do is sit on I'm a special magistrate for the city of Lauderdale Lakes as well.
Oh,
And even within that city, I can tell you there are a variety of programs that they offer for first-time home buyers. And they give the opportunity for someone to receive closing costs. And closing costs can be somewhere $20,000, $30,000 sometimes. And they would give a mortgage as a second mortgage to the property. And that would allow the person to close and have this second mortgage on the property. However, that second mortgage can be forgiven if you stay in the property for a certain time period. And this applies to not just that city, but a lot of cities, and people are really unaware. So I would say for a first-time home buyer, engage in any part of the first-time home buyer programs that you are aware of, and also look into the city or county that you are intended to buy in and see what programs they have. You'll be surprised that there's so much money out there that people do not tap into. And that actually, Jeff, what I'm referring to, some cities actually have money allocated for individuals who need to make repairs to their home. There are grants that you can apply for that would allow you to make those repairs. And even if you are a first-time home buyer, that same city or county may have a program where they would give you funds to make repairs to your home after you purchase it. So there are a variety of programs out there, but on the city and county levels, I would tell you to focus there first before you start entering into anything outside of it.
Celene, I really enjoyed this conversation, but I want to give you one last chance to kind of talk about anything currently in real estate that you think that any of our listeners should know.
Oh, Jeff, I only have a few minutes because I have a lot to say about that. But I will say
We can do
that
another one if you want. We'll do a part two.
I would say that real estate is going to be always a hot thing here in South Florida. Condominiums, I believe, I project that will be one of those topics that people are going to see moving a lot, because it's going to be foreclosures, it's going to be sales and purchases for those condominiums. And I say that as a result of the laws that went into play last year, and there's another one going into play in 2025 that requires certain type of inspections. As a result, a lot of associations are required to increase the reserves to take care of these things, which means that the assessments and the special assessments are being implemented. So you have people who are living on the ocean that has purchased these homes years ago, $30,000, $40,000. Fast forward, the buildings deteriorating. And as a result, the laws require them to have certain inspections, certain type of work to be done. I believe as a result of those increased assessments and requirements, those homes are going to be hotter on the market as people are going to try to get rid of them to eliminate that potential cost. And I mean, it's going to be a major change. I also anticipate the governor making more modifications to the laws because there are a lot of gray areas right now, uncertainty, but I do believe the real estate market will feel every bit of those changes as a result of the interest rate and as a result of the laws changing for certain inspections. So look out if you're trying to buy a condominium on the ocean, you may have an opportunity coming up. And I would definitely be privileged to help you out, navigate you through the process, including making sure that you're aware of all the restrictions and regulations that come along with condominium. Jeff, as you know, I also do condo and homeowners association law as a part of our practice. And so that, which means I'm very, very knowledgeable of the do's and don'ts of that type of world, but I'm also knowledgeable on how you can make a real estate transaction happen.
Celena, if anybody watching or listening would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
My website is www.nashreallaw.com, but you can also reach me at my first name, which is Celena, Celena, at nashreallaw.com. We'll be happy to help you out, or you can give us a call at 954-509-3793. And that's the easiest way to reach me.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your time. I always enjoy talking with you. And thank you again for doing this.
No, Jeff, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to your listeners. And I hope that if they do have any questions, they feel free to reach out to me.
Sounds great. Well, everyone, this has been my guest is Celena Nash, real estate attorney. Her website again is www.nashreallaw.com. I'm your host, Jeff Adelman. If you have any questions for me, you can call me anytime, 561-417-5656. Or if you have any questions about my personal injury practice, my website is www.lawbni.com, and my email address is jeff@lawbni.com. Till next time, everyone, be well. And if you would like to be on the program, or if you have any questions, reach out anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.